Here, this Perp back with another video, and I just got done watching the 4th episode of Swamp Thing, Season 1, and unfortunately, this is the only season that we're gonna get. Oh, man, it sucks, because, as I'm watching this, it's just getting better and better with each episode, but, like this video, if you enjoyed this episode, follow me on Twitter, at PerpMinded. And let's get into this video. So it starts off with a little flashback scene of Avery. He's burying the body that he just killed, and you get a flashback of him and his dad, and it's really interesting, and it kind of shows like why he is the way he is. Then we get to the present where these two dudes are in the swamp. Some shit happens. One of the dude gets scratched by something that falls out of the trees, and I'm thinking this is like Alec's body, but it's not. It's something much more sinister. So the dude that gets scratched goes to work the next morning, all nonchalant, but then when he's back in the kitchen, he starts hallucinating and starts like stabbing himself up like in the arm and stuff. This shit was crazy. This was very brutal, and I loved every minute of it. Meanwhile, we got Abby in the swamp trying to figure out what's going on with Alec. What exactly is he? Goes to him directly, and asks him, can I get a sample and whatnot? And, pretty much Swamp Thing or Alec gives her a sample of, gives him a sample of whatever he is. And she tries to go back to the lab to figure it out. Then then Dr. Woodruff, I think that's how you pronounce his name, pops in, and he's like a fanatic. He's like a nut when it comes to this stuff, and and he knows what this is more than Abby does, but Abby's kind of like iffy about letting him in. So she heads back to the hospital to check on the little girl to make sure she's all right. And what's his face? Avery pops up with Maria, and tells everybody, oh, we're having this big town gathering and whatnot. And Abby definitely knows that Avery's up to no good, and Avery, I think, knows that Abby knows something. But back to the bar, the cops show up. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Abby shows up to make sure Liz is okay and everything's okay at the bar. And they're having this little back and forth, but not knowing that the dude named Pops in this, I guess this is Liz's Pops, I don't know, because that's how she was referring to him as. He starts hallucinating because he got scratched by this dude that pretty much killed himself, and he starts hallucinating, and it takes the sheriff to make him come to his senses. But with doing that, she ends up getting scratched, not knowing what's going to happen to her. It's just like, it's kind of like whatever this thing is, it's jumping from body to body from whoever it scratches. Then we get this little scene of Avery, and he's kind of talking about living up to his father's expectations as a little kid and whatnot. And really interesting stuff we're getting with Avery in this episode, I could say that. So we head to the hospital where Pops is, waking up, doesn't really know what happened, but we just get backstory on what happened to him as a kid and with his mom. Meanwhile, Abby heads to the swamp to figure out what the hell is going on. What is this thing? Maybe Alec knows. And Alec pretty much tells her, this is something dark, something that needs to be brought back to the swamp. And, I really like the way his voice sounds in this. It's like he went from sounding like a caveman to speaking full sentences. Really cool shit. So, we get a scene at the party with Xanadel. I think that's what her name is, Miss Dr. Xanadel, or something like that. I don't know, talking to Daniel. And Daniel's just so obsessed with like finding out his destiny, and she kind of warns him about something big coming to this town that's going to be life-changing. And I really want to see how he is going to become the main villain. I really hope they don't wait till the last minute to show him off. That'd be kind of pretty disappointing. But we head to the party, everybody's having a good time, but then the sheriff starts to hallucinate her son being murdered, and things just go left from there. You don't know who else could get hurt from the situation, but thankfully Daniels was able to jump into action and save Abby from being shot. In return, she gets scratched, and now it's passed on. Whatever dark spirit is passed on to her, and she has to get the hell out of Dodge before it's too late. She brings it back to the swamp, and then she starts to have her own little hallucinations, and we get a little bit more details on her backstory and how she was as a child. And this shit was terrifying, to be honest. And then thankfully Swamp Thing is like holding her and telling her, yo, let me get this, I'll handle it. And they're able to get the spirit back to the swamp. And that shit was this was a really good episode as far as just the horror elements, and this is why it's really interesting to me. But then we cut to a scene with Avery and Marie, and it looks like they're taking the little kid in. Drawing a blank on her name, but who knows what they're up to with her. Maybe they're just trying to fill that void of their daughter being missing. But Avery's up to some really dark shit, and very interesting to see that going forward. And then we end this episode pretty much off with Abby talking to Alec and giving her details of her childhood and whatnot, and really deep shit. And Alex really trying to figure out what's going on, and he even says like this is not the last of everything. Really dope episode. What do you guys think in the comments below? I thought this was really well done. I'm liking all the characters that I'm seeing. I love the design of Swamp Thing, and it's a shame that this show got canceled, but hopefully they bring it back in some form or fashion. But yeah, hit that like button if you're new, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at PerpMinded, and I'm out. Peace.
They keep dreaming, man, but sometimes you gotta wake up from the dream and go get it. You get out of it what you put into it. The game is so simple, y'all just ain't listening. If you're chasing your dream, you're not running fast enough. Run faster. You gotta work for greatness, man. You gotta work. You gotta work hard just to be good. Fuck being great. So imagine greatness. We're going for greatness.